What's going on, team? Welcome back along to the channel for another week of Super Rugby action. That's right, it's the Super Rugby preview show where we are looking at round 6 of Super Rugby Aotearoa and round 3 of Super Rugby AU. Now, today's show is a bit special because we're kind of expanding in a way. Not only are you going to be watching this here on Cornflake's channel, you're going to be, that is my channel, of course, you're going to be watching this on New Zealand Sports Radio as well. So we are branching out and bringing the show to a whole new host of audience. So for those of you watching on YouTube, on my channel, welcome along to the show. And of course, anyone tuning in on New Zealand Sports Radio, welcome along to you guys as well. Make sure, of course, that you do leave your thoughts in the comments in the chat and everything you've got going on. Let us know what you think is going to happen this weekend in our 4 matches of Super Rugby. And, of course, let us know who you think is going to win each and every game as well. So we've got a special guest coming on for tonight's show. And, of course, you may know him. You've seen him here before on my channel as well. But it's a big welcome back to our big Aussie friend, Shane, from the big, great country of Australia. How are you going, sir?
A big g'day to you, Steve, and all the people out there. I'm going really well.
We've got a big 4 games to look at this week, Shane. But, I mean, before we do, we have to take a look and give a little bit of credit for those of you that are tuning in on my channel. As always, we're going to have a look at Super Brew like we always do, because this is a rare season for me, Shane. Now, this is a really rare season for me because I'm top of the table, top echelon, number 1. This is rare. And I mean, I've even won this glorious thing once this season. The yellow cap has been on my head in 2020, which means groundbreaking new set of results. But this week, it was a great performance from a betting Stig, who's made a very eager and quick reminder on Twitter that he actually picked that up on Sunday evening this week as well. So he's very chuffed to get that. So well done, betting Stig. You've done very well, up 7 spots into second. But I'm afraid to say you're still not number 1. That is still mine. And it's a big congrats as well to Toothpick, who picked up a good round to sit in 3rd position. So there we go. You guys have still got work to do to catch up with my mighty picks on the Super Brew. So you can all get involved in that as well. I've got one running myself. And of course, New Zealand Sports Radio will have their own pools running as well. So you can go check them out on Super Brew. Feel free to join in the fun as well. Now, Shane, Super Rugby's been going a while here in New Zealand with Super Rugby Aotearoa, of course. AU has not long started up, just our 3rd round. Your picks, predictions leading into the season or during the season, how have you gone so far? Have you been nailing them this season, or have you been a bit off the money?
Well, I got one right last week, and obviously we had the draw in at Brookvale Oval with the Reds and the Rebels. So you could say that I got 1.5 right.
Oh, that was unprecedented, wasn't it? That draw of all things. So they bring in these new rules for Super Time, all these new changes, and we still get a draw. No matter what happens, a draw seems to still always be a draw, even in 2020. So this weekend, we have 4 big matches, of course, 2 from each league. It kicks off on Friday night when the Reds host the Western Force. Then it's back here in New Zealand on the Saturday. The first match of Saturday evening is the Hurricanes versus the Blues. Bowden Barrett returns home. Oh, that's going to be juicy. Then back over to Australia. The Waratahs are hosting the Brumbies. And then back here Sunday afternoon, nice afternoon rugby game up in Waikato, where the Chiefs will be hosting the Highlanders. Now, in Super Rugby Aotearoa, this is round 6 now, so we're starting to get in that second round of teams meeting again. Of course, this was round 1. Back at the start of the competition when these sides first met. So a chance for revenge and redemption for some of these 4 sides. But we will kick things off in Australia, Shane. Your Reds, they are in action. And what have you thought about them so far this season? Personally, I've been pretty impressed with how your boys have gone. I've tipped them to do pretty well. Have they done the full distance or not? It's your team. Let us know what your thoughts are.
I've been impressed. I think the attitude has really been, it's always been there with Brad Thorne. It's just about getting the results. And while we didn't quite get the result at Brookvale last Friday night, you could see that they were desperate and they kept going for the 90 minutes. And they look a lot fitter than what they were a few years ago. So that's a positive. James O'Connor's really stepped up since he's come back to Australian rugby. A lot of these forwards, you know, we would have loved to have had Isaac Rodder with us, but Liam Wright, at 22 years of age, has really stepped up to the captaincy. So I've been really, really impressed. And I know I'm biased as a Reds supporter, but I just think that is really positive signs for Australian rugby. Young blokes getting out there and having a go.
Oh, for sure. It's great that the young blokes are actually performing at a good level as well, which is going to be great, I think, in the future of Australian rugby. They need it more than anything else as well, because there's a lot of holes and a lot of future spaces to fill in that Wallabies camp later on in the year if we get to see them as well. So their starting lineup, we'll go through it as well just quickly. The front row, Hupert playing Amosa and Tupou. Second row, Scott Young and Salakai Loto. Right, Mick Wright and Wilson are your back row. Tate McDermott, I think, has been fantastic. His combination really has come along nicely with James O'Connor, who wears the 10. In the centres, Hamish Stewart and Hunter Paisami. Good, solid. I've really enjoyed Hamish Stewart in the 12 jumper, which I didn't when I first saw these sides. I was like, oh, that's a disaster. He's been really good with the freedom to play. Felipe Dalgunu on the left wing. Chris Fiawi Sortier comes into the side on the right. And John Campbell moves from the wing to fullback for the Reds. Are you happy with that team? You think little changes to that side, but surely they're quite settled, aren't they?
Delighted. I think that's their best 15. Honestly, I mean, again, I bring up the point with Isaac Rodder. If Isaac Rodder was there, he's probably our best lock, but he decided to move on, and I think that's our best 15. It's really solid. Hunter Paisami, I've been so impressed by him. He's just stepped up. Tate McDermott's gone to another level. It's just amazing just to see what we can do when people give in genuine opportunity like they are.
100%. They are really stepping up. I think Brad Thorne's got a lot to, take a lot of credit for the way this Reds team's performing, how he's just made his rules and just chucked out anyone who doesn't want to play his game. It's cutthroat. It seems a little bit rash maybe to some people, but I think that's the way they've got to do it. They've got to step it up, and it's, I think, reaping rewards for them so far. Moving on to their opponents for this opening game, the Western Force. Really impressive with the Western Force in the opening 40 minutes. Their starting team for this week will be Wagner, Kaitu at hooker. Kieran Longbottom will be the front row. Thrush, Lee Warner will be the second row. Stowers, Ferris, and Standard. Oh, that was some combination in the back row for the Force in their opening matchup as well. Ian Pryor and John O'Lance will be the halves combination. In the midfield, Nick Just and Marcel Braki. On the wings will be Brad Lacey and Byron Ralston, the first try scorer for the Western Force in Super Rugby AU, and Jack McGregor, I think, had a good debut as well for the Force at fullback. They surprised everyone, didn't they, in their game against the Waratahs?
They didn't surprise me. I knew they were going to always take it up to the Waratahs. And traditionally, they have knocked over the Waratahs on several occasions, which I don't mind either. But this side's well built. I would have thought that they would have started with someone like a Wallaby with Kyle Godwin at inside centre, with his crafty sort of the way that he plays, because this derby was built for him, and perhaps started with Greg Holmes and a couple of others. But John O'Lance is solid. He's reliable at 10. Ian Pryor's very experienced. Jack McGregor, I've seen him in World Series or Global Rapid Rugby last year, and he has come a long way too. He's a very good 15. So there's a lot of really good positive signs for the Western Force out there. They're not there to make up the numbers.
That's definitely 100% true. Yeah, I'm on your side for this one too. I spoke about it last week on the preview. We did multiples of them. How I really like the look of the spine of this Western Force side. When you look through it, they've got experience in every position. Yes, they've got inexperience as well, but they pair up very, very nicely. And I think probably the area where they didn't look the most experienced was that back row. But my goodness me, Bernard Stander was just phenomenal at number 8. Man of the match in a losing performance. You know, you've got to play really, really well to pick up the man of the match award when your team doesn't win the game. That experience in the halves, I thought, treated them really, really well. I think they are going to be a tough team to beat. I think where they fell down was they didn't have a plan B. The Waratahs came out of the sheds at halftime and they had that plan B. They knew they were getting beaten. Yes, they needed to go into the sheds for halftime to be told how to play that second half, but they adapted, and like the Waratahs normally can't do, they can't play to a plan. This time they did, which was a shame, but I think they really got under the pump because they were going to lose to the Western Force, who hadn't been playing Super Rugby for 3 years or how many years it was, and they were going to lose to them, and they really got the pressure on them, and I think that was what sparked them to come back. But yeah, really impressive from the Western Force. Great bench as well. You talk about Greg Holmes, he's on there. Kyle Godwin, another one. Andrew Reedy, Chris Heiberg, all experienced sort of guys that can come on, especially in that pack in the front row. So it's going to be a nice forward battle between these two sides. But I'm excited to see what the Western Force can do yet again this weekend. How have you got this one going down? Your boys are at home. The Reds, hometown place for them this week. Are they going to pull off the victory?
Well, this is my favourite derby, Steve. And believe it or not, the Western Force have won the last 3 derbies between us.
Wow.
I'm going for a Reds victory by 3. I think it's going to be a great game. To the standard of a good Australian derby. But I'm going to, I think people are really going to enjoy it. And I think people are really enjoying seeing the Western Force back, and certainly not there to make up the numbers. So, Reds by 3 for me.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I'm just looking at the history of these two teams playing against each other. Twice they played in 2017. The Force, actually, the last meeting, the Force won 26 points to 40. Not even a close victory. That is a bit of a thumping. In 26-19, the game before that, when they were at home earlier in that same year. So really, the Force have got a point to prove here. And like you say, they've proven they can beat them, albeit 3 years ago. This is another big chance. I think they are definitely capable of beating any side on their day. But I'm agreeing with you on the result. I'm going the Reds as well. Reds by 8 is my call, but I'm fully expecting the Western Force to give them a good run for their money, just like they did the Waratahs. But I think, honestly, the Reds are a bit better of a team completely than the Waratahs were, and I think that was kind of your fourth place side. The Waratahs, your Reds, I'm picking them to finish at least a 3rd position this season. Moving on, back here, over to New Zealand, where it's going to be off to the Cape Town, or Sky Stadium, as some people like to call it, where it is the Hurricanes taking on the Blues. The rematch, like we talked about, of round number 1, where the Blues actually won that encounter 30 points to 20. That was at Eden Park. Now the shoe's on the other foot. Beauden Barrett going back home, if you can call it home anymore, but this is where he's played most of his career, is at Westpac or Sky Stadium. This is going to be a match that the Hurricanes would just love to win, isn't it?
Yeah, this is going to be a fascinating battle between the 2 North Island sides. And it's really going to come down to tactically astute. Who can do that more for the 80 minutes? I mean, you could put a few big Eastern grey kangaroos in and see how you could adjust those plays. I'm sure they'd want to play too. But you need your big tight 5s. This is the battle of who can dominate the tight 5s and who can get the most of the advantage out to either Beauden or his brother Geordie on the opposite side. They're going to be the key men in this one, Steve. Cannot wait. The Blues have won the last 2 encounters, and they've won it this year. So they will have the bragging rights in terms of games played this year and who's won more this year. But, this is going to be a good game, a really good game to start Saturday night.
Yeah, what's I found really interesting about these teams that were named earlier this afternoon or on Thursday afternoon as we record this is that the teams have undergone quite a significant amount of changes as well. I'll run you through them just quickly. For the Hurricanes, Ben May, Dane Coles and Tyrell Lomax sees Dane Coles return after missing that light injury last weekend. Second row of James Blackwell and Scott Scrafton. Red Principe, Duplessis, Karifi and Artie Savia are the back row. Perenara and then Garden Bishop is back. So that sees Fletcher Smith back out again. So confused as to what's going on there with Garden Bishop playing well, getting dropped, and now he's back again. I don't know what's going on there, Hurricanes. The midfield, again, I'm kind of perplexed about this one too, because Lamape stayed there, but they've gone and got rid of Vince Arceau again, not even on the bench, and they've put Peter Umanga Jensen back in there again, which I really thought this is a game, when we go through the Blues team, that specific midfield area is an area I think the Hurricanes could have really dominated with those 2 hard-running midfielders. On the wings, Ben Lamb, Corbus Van Eyck on the other side, and of course, like you mentioned, Geordie Barrett at fullback. Up against him on the Blues, the other side, Alex Hodgman, Kirk Eklund. Now, that means James Parsons out for his concussion. There's some big changes in this Blues team, by the way. And off for Tuangafasi, that's their front row. Patrick Tuipulotu and Josh Goodhue staying the same in the second row. But how about this back row? No Hoskins Sotutu. That is massive. So that means a newcomer who most people haven't really heard of. He's had about 3 appearances for the Blues so far. 26-year-old, so he's a bit older, but still hasn't played much at this level. Aaron Carroll is starting at 6 with Dalton Papali'i at 7 and Akira Ioana moving from 6 to 8. Finley Christie starts again. What's happened to Sam Nock in this Blues team? He is completely out of favour to the fact that Jonathan Ruru was on the bench as a scrum half replacement. Ortini Black stays at 10. Harry Plummer is still at 12. I mean, it didn't work last week. Why are they staying with this again? I'm a bit confused by Rico's at 13. Mark Tilly is on the right wing, Bowden Barrett at fullback, and Imoni Narawa is on the left wing with Caleb Clark taking personal leave. Expected because of death of his grandfather a couple of weeks ago, which, I mean, fair play to the kid. He needs that time off as well. So, you know, I don't question those replacements, injuries, or for Caleb's sake as well to take that time off 100%. But why they're still persevering with this Harry Plummer like they're trying to fix something that's not broken here with Faiani off the bench. I'm not sure about this team, but I think the Blues certainly look a little bit weaker from it.
Yeah, I have my question marks about Harry Plummer at 12. I question sometimes whether he's quite the standard for Super Rugby. He certainly could definitely be a useful Mitre 10 player, but this thing with the Blues about 10s, 12s, and 15s, it's and perhaps that consistency. I think Terry's done all right. I think he's actually learnt from having Bowden Barrett there, and Bowden, and obviously the Hurricanes are, with their 10 situation, don't they miss Bowden now? But look, and certainly my thoughts are with Caleb Clark. He played very well a couple of weeks ago and did his grandfather proud. So I hope he's okay. And obviously, rightfully so, he's taking that time off which he needs. Look, the Blues they've got to get out there. They've just got to compete and scrap. And Wellington, they'll bring their crowd in, and it won't be favourable to the Aucklanders, I can assure you.
I had a tough time picking this one. I really did, because I looked at this before the teams were announced, writing the preview, and I thought, yep, Blues will have this. It'll be a bit tighter, a bit closer, I think, than that first encounter. But, you back the Blues. I think they're the form team, bar the Crusaders in this competition. And then I saw the teams, and I'm like, oh, imagine Laumape and Arso running at a Harry Plummer. Rico Ioane will hold his own. But at Harry Plummer, okay, they say we'll switch them with the wingers. Okay, so you're going to switch them with Narawa, who's a new guy coming into the team. You're going to switch him with Mark Talia, who's not a massive kind of winger compared to a Laumape running at him. Or what, are you going to bring Bowden Barrett in from fullback to cover that inside centre channel? Either way you look at it, you've still got that Ortini Black channel as well, which is another smaller defender. So I really look at it and go, Arso and Laumape, that double 10 and midfield smashing combination could have wreaked havoc in this Blues team. So I think they missed a trick there, but hopefully we will see a similar game style from Umanga Jensen, but whether we'll have that same effect and experience of that combination that the Laumape Arso has is the question mark I have about that too in midfield. But yeah, should be a good clash. I think that back row without Hoskins Sotutu, a little bit weakened, and now you've got an increasingly match-fit Ardie Savea as well. So it's going to be a big task to the likes of Akira Ioane too to step up to the plate for this one. This is a big, big match for him to step up against what is, of course, the incumbent All Black number 8, isn't it, as well? So big match. I would have loved to have seen Sotutu versus Ardie Savea, but sadly it won't be this weekend. But hopefully we should see that match up one day between these two sides. I think it's going to be closer than I initially thought. What are your thoughts on the result of this one?
Against my better judgment, because I do go for the Blues, I think the Hurricanes will get away with it by a point. But I think it's going to be a really, really good game of footy. I think that it will come down, as I said before. I think whoever does a lot of work with the type 5 and your number 8 and Obviously a fringe forward getting the turnovers is going to really set up the opportunity for one of the Barretts to take advantage. And maybe I just see that home ground, the Cake Tin, big crowd at Wellington cheering the Hurricanes on, maybe just in their advantage.
I'm excited now. I am. That's a big, big call. I mean, I can't disagree with you, but I am going to. I still think the Blues are going to get the job done, but I think this pick was based on pre-teams, and I've gone the Blues by 8. But I think now looking at the teams, I think the Hurricanes got every chance of winning this, and it'll probably be by less than 3, either which way you go. But as I've always done, I'll stick to my original pick. I won't change it because that generally backfires. I'll stick with the Blues. Form, confidence, everything's on their side. A little bit of injury concern, but I think they should wrap this up still anyway. Again, big dependence on this is weather conditions, because the Blues kicking game has come on in massive bounds over the last few weeks as well. So that's going to be key for them moving into this matchup. But it's sure to be a great start to your Saturday night. Following that, we go over to the Waratahs versus the Brumbies. Now, Shane, are we going to have a continuation of a good Saturday night here in Sydney?
These games always bring entertainment, by Australian standards, of course. So I think we are. You know what? Do as I do. Get the steaks out. Get this bread out. Get the barbecue sauce out, and just celebrate with us as well. This is the battle between the New South Wales Waratahs and what the Brumbies were known as historically 25 years ago was the New South Wales Rejects. And haven't they shown up New South Wales when it comes to the stakes? No pun intended. But look, I think we're going to see some attacking rugby in this one. So I'm really looking forward to it. Enjoy the night of rugby.
It's, I think, got a few aspects of this matchup I'm looking forward to seeing. So we'll run through the lineups quickly for this one. On the Waratahs side, Robertson, Horton, and Johnson Holmes. Really, Harry Johnson Holmes and Angus Bell, although he's on the bench, Angus Bell, tonight, but I think they've got two really promising young props in that Waratahs side. Ned Hannigan and Rob Simmons will be second row. Lachlan Swinton, Michael Hooper, Jack Dempsey are the back row. Mitch Short and that man, Will Harrison, we'll get to him more in just a second. Into the midfield, Carmichael Hunt, he's back, and I think he was really impactful off the bench last week as well, so it's great for the Waratahs he's back. He added something special. He partners up with Joey Walton, who's a 13. On the wings, Alex Newsom moves out of midfield onto the wing. James Ram stays on the right-hand side, and Jack Maddox will be at fullback. For the Brumbies, it's something special in that front row. James Slipper, Flau Whainga, Alan Alatoa, Darcy Swain and Murray Douglas in the second row. Rob Valentini, Tom Cusack, and Pete Samu the back row. Joe Powell and Noah Lolesio. That is the matchup I want to see. Lolesio versus Harrison. That is the future of Australian tens, I think, in a nutshell right there. Midfield for the Brumbies is Simone and Kurandrani, as I lose my spot. Tom Wright on the left wing, Andy Muirhead on the right, and Tom Banks at fullback. Number 10, it's the shirt to watch, isn't it, this weekend?
Well, I like Noah. I really do. I think I've been really impressed from when he made his debut to what he's been doing lately. I think he's really stepped up into that role, taken over from Christian Lealiafano, who was considered the Brumbies' spiritual leader, and rightfully so. This bloke will be in the future. And I think he has a very strong future in that 10 jumper. And I won't mind admitting, I'd love to see him a Wallaby one day wearing that 10, carving up for the Wallabies, is against young Will Harrison, who was okay last week. I still have question marks whether he's up to Super Rugby standards, but he can only improve from there, and he's getting as well. So you're right, Stephen. There's just the aspect between these two tens is quite exciting to see.
Yep, I agree with you there. I've been nothing short of impressed by Will Harrison. I think he's been a bit of a slow starter in his career. I think Lucio has been probably a bit more prominent straight away. But yeah, Will Harrison definitely is a guy I enjoying watching. His running game is quite good. And I think it's especially important as well for Australian rugby because you look at the other teams that have got James O'Connor, not really a 10, Matt Tamua, not really a 10. And I mean, the future of John O'Lance, I mean, if you're looking at international duties, is he going to be around? Is he going to be moving on? So, where's he going to be is the question. But these two guys, Lolosio and Harrison, I think are the future of the Wallaby number 10 jumper. If they get, well, they are. They're going to get all this game time, and they're only going to improve as time goes on. Big game, not only for these two teams this weekend, but for the competition as well, because the Brumbies, obviously, early front runners, had the bye last week. But if this could be an upset for the Waratahs, really put this table upside down. But the Brumbies, surely, even on the road, go into this one as the favourites. And for me, I'm going to have them picking up the victory. Are you going for an away win on this one as well?
Yeah, I'm going for the Brumbies by 7. I think there'll be a lot of entertainment. I think there'll be a lot more running rugby, particularly when broken play comes into effect in the second half. Look at what Joe Powell has been doing in that 9 position. A few years ago, he was a young bloke learning the trade, became a Wallaby pretty early in 2017. Then he started to run the ball more. He started to become really dynamic in that role. Look at the way Tom Banks has come up as a fullback. We're seeing a lot of, players starting to really develop and become more comfortable. And it's a good thing that this derby is a very traditional Australian derby by our standards. So it's one to really look forward to. And as I said, keep your barbecue and your grills warm and make sure you ring the pizza shop, whatever you got to do. Just sit back, relax, and enjoy this one.
Very much so. It should be a good one. I'm agreeing with you. I'm going the Brumbies by 11 points to pick up this victory. I'm hoping it's going to be a good night. It's going to be a good game for running rugby as well, because I'd like to see what these guys can do. I've been impressed by Jack Maddox at fullback. I thought he's been a standout for the Waratahs as well. But there's a lot of improvement can go around the rest of them as well, especially those young guys as well. So against a team that likes to play in the forwards like the Brumbies are, and they've expanded now to being a bit more backline friendly, I want to see more of that. And I want to see the Waratahs, see if they can back up that second half where they actually knuckled down and played some good rugby for once. Can they do that for another 80 minutes and really take their game up to a top standard? That's going to be the question for me. Can't see it happening. The Brumbies will get the job done for my pick. Right, last game of the weekend where the boys are in action. The mighty Highlanders, they're on the road and they're up against the winless Chiefs. Oh, I think there's been a lot of media build-up in this one for the Highlanders, a lot of changes, a lot of injuries, a lot of comeback from injuries as well. But we'll get to them in just a second because we don't actually have the lineups for this game. So there's a lot going on. But the Chiefs, can they pick up win number 1 against the team that they almost got it in round 1 against?
Well, something's about the Chiefs, Steve. I mean, they're not as nimble as my cat. And she certainly is very nimble. When they want something and desire something, they usually get it. The Chiefs haven't got that yet. It's not to say that they haven't played some okay rugby. It's just that they are frustrating their supporters. And, from all the tweets I read on the weekend, they are frustrating their supporters. When it comes to the Chiefs, it comes to depth, and they don't quite have that depth compared to a lot of New Zealand sides. So it's going to be a very, very testing time. These two sides have been so, and I know you love your Highlanders, Steve, and mate, I love the South Island from my travels there too. They play this scrappy sort of rugby lately, the Highlanders, that's really, you almost think you're watching the Wallabies in some regards. But but they have so much potential there too. So this is going to be very interesting. This is really going to be very interesting to see. And you're right, Stephen, the media hype over this game well and truly they have a right to. I think it's going to be a good game, but I just can't pick it.
It's a battle for the wooden spoon, isn't it? Effectively, if the Chiefs pick up this win, they won't meet again, and it's going to come up to someone upsetting the Hurricanes, Blues, the Crusaders in the following rounds to try and get themselves out of that little log jam at the bottom, which is going to be a tough ask for either of these two sides. We know the Chiefs aren't going to bully a team in their pack, are they? Like I said, they're absolutely hammered. They don't have the depth there. So I think that's somewhere that they're going to struggle to put down a marker in this game. And if the Highlanders, I agree with exactly what you said. You hit the nail on the head with that. They've really fallen off, I think, in the last 2 weeks. Probably confidence took a bit of a hit with that close loss to the Blues, and then pushing the Crusaders so deep and then getting smashed by 20 points when they were within 6 with, less than 10 minutes to play. That would have really hurt. Big time, that would have hurt. And then it all completely fell out of the cot when they come against the Canes last weekend. So they've got to find their head again because they're in a good space. They're playing well. They need to find that sort of momentum. They need to get that good performances back out of those same players again who are looking so good. But there's a lot of news about the Highlanders this week. Of course, Dylan Hunt took that eye injury in the game last weekend. He's been cleared okay to play, which is huge because Mr. Defense, that's what he's all about. And it falls apart without him there at number 7. So he is a vital, vital part of that pack. Also, Josh Ioane is said to be fit and ready to return, which is probably the best headache that Aaron Major and his cohorts could probably think of having, because now they've got an informed Mitch Hunt. They've got, of course, the incumbent man in number 10 jumper, Josh Ioane, who's fit to play. Do they put Mitch Hunt expectantly back to fullback like was the original plan? Get rid of Michael Collins, who's been a bit average. Put Hunt back there, have that combination, put Ioane back in at 10, and then you've got quite that almost feel of the first strength team with the Highlanders coming back together in that as well. And the injury. The sad news is the injury to Kane Hamilton. I'm not that sad about it because it means Folau Fakatava can come into this team on the bench. He was a man we've been probably hammering on about in the last couple of weeks about how we want to see him come on and actually add something to this Highlanders team rather than Hamilton, who comes on and just seems to meander the team along but doesn't really add much spark into the team. So Fakatava will come in, I'd expect, to the bench with that injury to Hamilton. And also Josh Mackay. There's whispers of Josh Mackay coming into the team, possibly starting on the wing. The former Crusader, you remember him from his heydays there, could make a massive, massive difference to this Highlanders. All those changes give you a bit of positivity about this team, doesn't it?
Yeah, and that's what they need. They need some players out there that are going to make a real difference, particularly in games like this. That's going to be a bit, as you know, they do play very similar type of game styles here. The only probably difference is the Chiefs do their zigzag angle line running through the middle, which gives them that quickness for, and it would have probably been good to see the two lineups. So we had an accurate idea of perhaps tactically what maybe the Chiefs were going to do and the Highlanders were going to do, but certainly in terms of the Highlanders getting a few useful players that might be able to make a difference will certainly be beneficial for them.
You're right in what you say too, because a week off for the Chiefs last week means that they could have a number of players who are getting near that injury return as well with that bye week last weekend. So sadly, we don't have the teams because they don't name the team for the Sunday game until late Friday afternoon, about 2 hours before, or probably 3 or 4 hours before the Australian match starts on a Friday evening, which leaves it far too late to get these videos done and through. So we always have to miss out this last Sunday game for team lineups, but hopefully maybe by late Friday when you'll be tuning into this, there will be the teams up. You can actually have a bit of a glance as to how they will actually line up. But I expect big changes for this Highlanders team for the positive. Just get out of that sort of slump that they seem to be sitting in, because this is a must-win. This is a must-win for both teams as well. Who comes out of this? If it is the Highlanders, they should be clear and clean to at least finish in 4th. If the Chiefs pull this off, this is really going to put an absolute spanner in the Highlanders season. And that confidence is going to take another massive, massive hit. But remember, it was a drop goal finish in round 1 where the Highlanders pipped it by that single solitary point. If we have a replay of that, man, it's going to be just something absolutely outstanding. Who's going to put this one for you? We know it's going to be close. Are the Chiefs going to do it, or are the Highlanders going to get one on the road?
Steve, I'll go with you, and I'll go with the Highlanders. I'll go the Highlanders by 3.
Oh, I've gone very similar. I've gone the Highlanders as well. You can't not back the boys to get the job done. But just the 2 points, though, I think it's going to be, you can't go bigger than that. It's just going to be one of those games. It's going to be tight. It's going to be tense. And someone's going to do something special to win the game. Will it be Gatland against Gatland? Unlikely if Josh Ioane's going to be fit again. But there's always that magic in the game to have that amazing little finish at the end of the matchup. So there we go. That's our 4 games of Super Rugby Aotearoa and Super Rugby AU this weekend. And we've gone pretty similar for all our picks so far. Let us know what you think. And, of course, the comment section in the chat as well, if you're watching on New Zealand Sports Radio or, of course, on YouTube on my channel. So go let us know what you guys think is going to happen. Get involved in the Subaru. Put your picks where your money is and really put yourself on that table and see if you're as good as picker as all of us as well. But, of course, a big thanks, Shane, for coming on and having your thoughts on the preview this week. Great to have you on the channel yet again. And, of course, I'll be back again next week for more here on YouTube and, of course, on Facebook and all your other podcasting things and other apps and all sorts of places where you can find New Zealand Sports Radio as well. So go check that out. I'll see you all next week. Big thanks to our guest, Shane, once again. And thanks for coming by. Take care.